Day 11 of the US-Israel war on Iran, and the stakes just jumped dramatically. As American and Israeli strikes intensify, Tehran says it is changing the rules of the missile war. Iran's Revolutionary Guard now vows to launch only monster missiles, warheads weighing at least 1 ton, designed to overwhelm defenses. Our next report brings you more details.
The air war is intensifying. American bombers and Israeli jets continue pounding Iranian targets. Military facilities, launch sites and command centers have been hit as the conflict enters its 11th day. Israel warns that the attacks on Iran are set to increase.
Our aspiration is to enable the Iranian people to cast off the yoke of tyranny. Ultimately, it is up to them. But there is no doubt that through the actions taken so far, we are breaking their bones, and there is more to come.
My friends, the people of Iran, the goal of these attacks is neither freedom nor democracy. Their goal is the partition of Iran. They want Iran torn into pieces and weakened. Let us not forget these words.
But as the bombs fall, Iran is signaling a dangerous retaliation, not with more missiles, but with heavier ones. Iranian forces say they have launched 33 waves of aerial attacks. As part of their retaliatory action named Operation True Promise 4, Iran's powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps made a striking announcement. Brigadier General Majid Musavi declared that from now on, no missile with a warhead weighing less than 1 ton will be launched. That means every missile fired will carry double the explosive force used in earlier waves. Iran says it launched 10 Khyber Shikan missile rockets towards Tel Aviv and the US 5th Fleet base in Bahrain. Khyber Shikan missile is one of Iran's most advanced weapons, solid fuel, road mobile, launch ready within minutes. It can travel roughly 1,450 kilometers and descend at extreme speeds while maneuvering to evade interceptors. The missile is said to reach speeds exceeding 9,000 km per hour. Until now, these missiles typically carried warheads weighing around 450 to 600 kilograms. Iran now says the payload will double to 1 metric ton. That single change dramatically alters the economics of the war. Intercepting ballistic missiles is already expensive. A single Patriot PAC-3 interceptor costs roughly $4 million. A third interceptor costs more than $12 million. Israel's Arrow 3 system costs several million per shot. Heavier warheads mean larger blast zones. That forces defenders to fire more interceptors per incoming missile. More missiles intercepted, more money burned. And the consequences of a single miss become far greater. Analysts say Tehran is no longer choosing between missile quantity and destructive power. It is deploying both. Previous missile and drone barrages saw interception rates as high as 70 to 90%. But the real test begins now, because if every incoming missile carries twice the explosive weight and even one that slips through, then that could change the battlefield instantly. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, Well, we've been talking about the Strait of Hormuz. It is one of the most critical energy choke points in the world, and any disruption here can send shockwaves through the global economy, as we are seeing at the moment. Let's break it down for you why this is significant. First, let's talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, it lies between Iran on one side and Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Oman on the other. So it's the only sea passage that is connecting the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. And through this single maritime corridor, remember, passes a massive share of the world's energy supply. Around 20% of the world's total oil supply moves through this very strait, and about 25% of the global seaborne oil trade is dependent on it. In fact, nearly 20 million barrels of oil passes through this very Strait of Hormuz every single day. So who depends the most on this critical oil route? Asia is the biggest consumer of this oil moving through the Strait of Hormuz. But within Asia, which is the largest importer, it is China. It stands at 37.7%, which is the largest importer. And then comes India, which is at about 14.7%, close to 15%, followed by South Korea at 12%, then Japan at 10.9%. Remember, two major industrial economies that rely heavily on energy imports, China and India, as well as, of course, South Korea and Japan. The US and Europe at 2.5% and 4% take a much smaller share. In fact, nearly 89% of the crude oil moving through Hormuz goes to Asia. Only about 11% goes to the rest of the world, which makes Asia, and especially China and India, highly vulnerable to any disruption in this strait. And that is why the kind of concerns that we are seeing here in India. But it's not just the oil tankers of different countries that are at risk. The wider conflict in West Asia is also threatening some of the region's most critical energy facilities. Let's begin with Qatar. The Ras Laffan LNG terminal has been shut down after a drone strike here in Qatar in this very facility. This is, remember, the world's largest LNG export hub, and Qatar accounts for roughly 20% of the global LNG supply. Shifting our focus to Saudi Arabia, where the Ras Tanura port, this very refinery, has been impacted. It is one of the kingdom's key oil export hubs. It was temporarily shut following a drone impact and a fire. Oil infrastructure in the UAE has been affected as well at the Fujairah oil terminal in the country, with disruptions reported at this very terminal. Remember, this is a key route that is used to bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Israel has shut down production at the Leviathan gas field as well due to security risks. But Bahrain, remember, in Bahrain, the Bapco refinery has been affected. It has halted operations after a missile strike disrupted fuel supplies. Now remember, if shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is disrupted, the consequences will go far beyond just oil, because it serves as a vital route for global trade as well. It is a major corridor for global LNG supplies as well, with roughly 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas trade passing through this very strait. At the same time, the Gulf region exports massive volumes of petrochemicals, plastic feedstocks, fertilizers, refined fuels, as well as industrial chemicals. They're all of them relying on this very shipping route. Now, with vessels avoiding the region and freight risks rising, shipments of jet fuel, diesel, naphtha and chemical cargoes are facing delays. Remember, every dry bulk commodities, including coal and steel, are seeing disruption as the shipping companies steer clear of this entire conflict zone. The result is a widening supply shock that is ripping through multiple industries. And that is exactly why governments and markets around the world are watching this region very, very closely. The global economy is highly dependent on energy flows from the Gulf. India, remember, imports about 50% of crude via the Strait of Hormuz, as you can see. This is why India is very concerned. Next up is Japan. It imports 75% of the oil from the Gulf. It is dependent on the Gulf region for 75% of its oil imports. South Korea, 60% of its crude is dependent on this region for its crude supply. So if shipping through the Hormuz is disrupted, the risks are significant. And the energy import bills could rise sharply as well. There are concerns around the world on that. Global inflation pressures could increase. Supply chains in manufacturing industries could face serious disruptions as well. And there could be major pressure on fertilizer and chemical supplies as well. And here in India, also there are concerns about it. These are essential for the agriculture industry as well. Unless maritime security improves quickly, the economic costs of this conflict could continue to spread far beyond the oil market. And that is why the entire world is concerned about it. But remember, the war in West Asia is now widening and Israel's northern front is rapidly heating up. Hezbollah has stepped up rocket fire into northern Israel anti-tank missiles, and they're targeting Israeli positions now along the border. This comes after Israel has repeatedly attacked and breached the ceasefire with Lebanon since 2024. The question now is whether Hezbollah is sliding into a full-scale conflict with Israel. Authorities in the United States are reportedly investigating intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran, according to a U.S. federal government alert reportedly sent to law enforcement agencies. The encrypted communication may function as a possible operational trigger intended for covert operatives or sleeper assets outside of Iran. According to an ABC News report, American authorities say the transmission appeared shortly after the assassination of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Khamenei was assassinated on the 28th of February in a military strike carried out by United States and Israel. And as per the report, this encrypted communication was encoded and likely intended for clandestine recipients who possess the required encryption key. Such communications are reportedly typically used to send instructions to covert operatives without relying on the internet or cellular networks. Investigators reportedly say they cannot yet determine the exact content of this message, but the sudden emergence of a new station reportedly capable of international rebroadcast activity has clearly raised concerns among intelligence agencies. Now remember, the U.S. federal alert reportedly makes it clear that authorities have not identified any operational threat tied to a specific location. Law enforcement agencies across the United States have nevertheless been reportedly asked to increase monitoring of suspicious radio frequency activity. The incident comes just weeks after two separate mass shootings took place amid heightened security concerns in America. In Austin, Texas, a mass shooting outside a bar popular with university students had left 3 people dead and 14 others injured. This incident happened just one day after the U.S. Department of Homeland Security warned about the possibility of lone wolf attacks and cyber threats amid the tensions involving Iran. While another shooting took place in Cincinnati, Ohio, in which at least 9 people were wounded after gunfire broke out inside a nightclub. Now remember, there is currently no confirmed link between these attacks and Iran. Where does the secret to a sharper mind lie? What if I told you it is inside your daily workout? Well, new research suggests that when people start exercising regularly, they don't just strengthen their bodies, they actually train their brains to work smarter. Scientists have found that within just a few weeks of getting fitter, the human body begins to release higher levels of a powerful protein linked to mental sharpness. This protein, they claim, helps the brain focus, control impulses, manage emotions, and make better decisions. Researchers from the University College London followed a group of adults aged between 18 and 55 who they said were mostly inactive and split them into 2 groups. Some of them continued their normal routine, while the other group began a structured fitness program, cycling 3 times a week, along with basic strength exercises like push-ups and squats. 3 months later, the results came out. Those who exercised regularly, researchers claim, became fitter, and after even a short 15-minute workout, their bodies released far more of a brain-boosting protein known as BDNF. This protein, researchers claim, acts like a natural fertilizer for our brains. It helps the nerve cells grow and build stronger connections. The foundation of learning, memory, and mental health is right here. But here's the most surprising finding. As BDNF levels increased, the brain actually used less energy while completing attention and decision-making tasks. In simple terms, the brain started working more efficiently.